Ooh, it says live on YouTube.
We are live on YouTube, guys. Okay, so this is episode number 4 of the Home Ed Me podcast on Learn with Sid channel. And Geoff has been reminding me that I need to remind everyone to subscribe to my channel, to subscribe to Geoff's channel. What's your channel, Geoff?
Live on YouTube,
So just Good Life Gymnastics.
Okay,
This is episode number 4 of the Home Ed.
You would have heard me twice then. Okay, I need to mute my laptop.
Double reason to subscribe. Double the reason.
Now, at the moment on YouTube, it's going to say in 2 places that we're going live. So we're live on here, and then I set up a schedule on YouTube, which is going to be saying we're going live soon. So I've got the 2 mixed up. We're live on this bit. So if you're on the other one, you need to move over onto this one, guys. We're live here. Okay, just to start again, Home Ed Me podcast. We are session number 4. We're going to be looking at gymnastics today with the amazing Geoff Rellis. So Geoff is a gymnastics teacher, coach, teacher. Do you call yourself a teacher or a coach?
And I use both sometimes, depending on the day.
What's the difference between a coach and a teacher?
I don't know. I suppose coach is generally related purely with sports, but we teach in school sometimes, so it's pretty much the same as being a teacher, and we do teach kids things, so I don't know.
We'll explore that in more detail in a little while. So you're listening into the Home Ed Me podcast every Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. And today we're going to be talking about everything to do with gymnastics. So first of all, we're going to be learning about Geoff's life, how he got into gymnastics. We'll be exploring some options of what you could be doing at home with your kids in terms of being in lockdown and how you could be active at home. And at the end, we're going to be looking at the Home Ed Me challenge, and Geoff is going to be answering some challenge questions. Are you a bit nervous?
A little bit, yeah.
with the challenge questions, they could be anything, right?
Well,
so
I've got one question. Can I win?
Can you win?
Is it a way that I can win? Like, is it a competition?
Not really.
These questions?
They're more open-ended questions, unless you get something like which has a definite answer, but there's very few questions that have a definite answer.
Nah, then I've nothing to be nervous about. It's not a competition, it's okay.
So we are live at the moment on YouTube, so I'm just going to check to see who is watching us. If you are watching us right now, give us a shout out. We will be able to answer questions and have a chat with you guys. But first of all, let's start off with Geoff. Just give us an introduction about who you are and how you got into gymnastics.
So I got into gymnastics the same way most people do. My mum put me into it, and she put all of my siblings into gymnastics. I think it was just an excuse to get rid of us for an hour a week when I was a kid down at the local village hall when I was about 6 years old. I think it was actually putting my sister into it, and then she thought, wait, I can try and get rid of all of them at the same time. So we did. My sister stayed at it for a little while. Everybody else quit, and then me and my sister did it for a little while, and then I stayed in the longest, and I just kept going.
So where are you in terms of your siblings? Are you the oldest? Are you the youngest?
I'm the youngest. Yeah, I'm the baby.
But you stayed through with the gymnastics. So what age did you join?
So I started when I was 6. So I've been doing it now for, I'm nearly 30, so that's 24 years now.
Oh, you're still young. So that's a long time. So it's interesting that you say it was your parents that put you into it, which is what makes it really important for parents to actually actively get their kids involved in lots of different things when they're young, because there might be one thing that your child really loves and sticks with it for a lifetime, and you're not going to know if you don't try.
100%, yeah, 100%. And parents are the big influence at the start. You know, we learn a lot of this in how to teach children like their gymnastics. There's kind of 2 different styles of teaching. There's like a coach-led coach, and then there's a gymnast style coach, or like a gymnast-led coach. Basically, if you're a coach-led coach, is where basically you always tell people what to do, and a gymnast-led coach is when you kind of use the person's input to coach people. And when people are super young, it just needs so much input from the responsible adult, basically, whether it's the coach or the parent, and it needs that really good influence of getting your child into like something positive and active. At the end of the day, I think that's the main thing, getting your child into something positive and something active. And we personally feel that gymnastics is one of the best
I
things to
think
do.
when kids are really young, either they want to try everything or they don't want to try anything at all. And I think
Yeah, that's
part
true.
of the responsibility is for the parents to actually actively encourage their child to try everything, to figure out what it is that they want to do.
Yeah,
You
100%.
started off really young. And then what happened then? So when you went into secondary school, were you always into sports? Were you always
Um,
focused that way?
I wouldn't say sports because gymnastics wasn't a huge thing in Ireland when I was growing up. It was like this tiny, tiny little sport that not a lot of people knew about. So when it came to like sports, like football in Ireland, a big thing for us is like Gaelic football, which is like the Irish traditional football, which is huge. And these are the kind of things I was never very good at. So no one really thought of me as like a sporty person until I kind of probably started going to secondary school when like all the kids started to grow and develop, when like all the because I was in an all boys primary school, basically all the boys started to grow and maybe get a little bit bigger in different shapes and sizes because of the sports and things that they were doing, whereas I started to get like quite big and muscular because I was training and such like so much across the week, because gymnastics is such a different sport compared to the likes of football or basketball. At least back then it was anyway, because gymnastics has always been so like physically demanding. So you always have spent a lot of time with things like strength. So it showed around that point when I sort of started going to secondary school. I was a small kid, but I was a muscular child, and I think that's when sort of people started to notice that that's what I did, and that's when I was good at sports. Because I think around the same time as well when I started to compete for Ireland. So then obviously I was in the newspapers and things from time to time, so people would recognize it. Be like, oh, I know that guy. I didn't know he did that.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that it develops muscles, because especially young men, when they're developing muscles, you think gym, you think
Yeah,
heavyweights, you think training, you don't think gymnastics. I think gymnastics people, well, I've got an impression in my head that it's a very feminine
yeah.
sort of sport. So did you get a lot of kind of odd reactions when you told people that actually it's gymnastics that you're doing, it's not
Yeah,
heavyweight?
so when I did, that's what I mean. When it sort of started, like when I was in gymnastics was a girly sport when I was growing up. But then that's what I mean. When people started to see that, one, I could do like cool tricks like flips and things. And then when we were getting changed in the changing room and I had a six pack and biceps, people were like, oh, gymnastics might be kind of cool, because it is such a different thing. Because in reality, kids don't really go to the gym or do weights when they're like that age, like 11, 12, or they shouldn't for that matter. Not in like in this, not in the way that would build their muscles, but when you're doing like your own body strength, you're always kind of limited to your own weight. And so it's kind of measured in a good way because you're never piling on extra heavy weights or anything, because you're just kind of lifting yourself and using yourself.
Did you find that your diet and your lifestyle was different from your siblings because of the fact that you did gymnastics? Were you consuming foods that they weren't because you had to keep your strength going?
No, I probably should have. Like, if I had more of because gymnastics wasn't a huge thing when I was growing up in Ireland. If it was more of like an elite sport, there could have been things like that implemented, because it does like a good diet and a good like view on your lifestyle can increase your performance. But we didn't know anything about that when I was a kid. It's like you eat when you're hungry, and as long as you're still strong, you're still happy, then it doesn't matter. So I ate the same as everyone else. I was a hungry kid. I ate lots of food, but I still stayed like small in height and muscular in size.
And did you find that, did it affect the rest of your subjects and your learning? Did you find that your focus was gymnastics and you wanted to be in the gym all the time? Not the gym, the gym in terms of gymnastics gym. Did you find that because of the fact that you were very flexible, there were certain sporty, I know you said you're not really into your sports, but there's certain sports that you might have been better at?
Yeah, I think. Well, when I think back now as an adult, looking back at my childhood, like I do think I would have taken to sports better. Like when it came to things like sports day, whether it was like running and jumping and things like that, I was always sort of top of the game, especially as I sort of developed into a teenager because I got stronger and faster and things like that. So I did excel and stuff like that. But at that stage, I didn't really have an interest in like football and basketball or rugby. And with those kind of sports, like natural ability helps in terms of being strong and fast and like quick twitch, like but it still takes a lot of skill and years of practice. So it's hard to kind of compete with people like that. But yeah, I would have always said that I would have taken to sports in a good way. But when coming back to what you said about sort of school, it's quite an interesting question because I'm not sure how my gymnastics impacted my school, but I think I was a very energetic kid, and school is a very difficult thing for me because I wasn't very good at sitting down and opening a book and learning in the old-fashioned way. And I think the difference, like if you sat and had a conversation with my teachers now, they would have said like he was a crazy kid, like he was a nightmare to teach, like especially sort of in my later years, it just didn't settle down. Like all through secondary school, I would have been quite a difficult kid. But then if you had spoke to my gymnastics coach, they would have said he's a pleasure to teach. He's so disciplined. He's so polite. And I think looking back on it now, from being, I would say, a specialist in what I do in teaching something to children, I think that teachers back then, they didn't know how to channel my energy in the right way. Because if you think about it, if you don't use someone's energy and you don't use what they're interested to kind of move them into the mainstream learning, then it's going to be more of a challenge. Whereas they see this high energy and they just think you're a badly behaved kid, and you get this sort of stigma, and then you go down the route of you're a badly behaved kid rather than using it to like excel in learning, which some teachers kind of got the grip of later. Like we had some young teachers that came in with new ideas, but then we always have the older teachers that have been there for years and years and just get cranky and tell me to get out of classes and things like that.
It's interesting that you mention it as if things have changed. I think if you were to go back into school, you probably do work in schools. Things haven't changed very much in terms of the teacher is still responsible for about 30 kids in a classroom, and it's difficult to know what each child's focus or
I
strength.
would disagree a little bit there because, well, the thing is, I do spend a lot of time with schools.
Mm.
I don't spend a lot of time with secondary schools and secondary school teachers. So I don't know lots about how they work with the kids, but I do spend a lot of time with primary schools and with primary school teachers. And I think the science that they've now brought into it and the like techniques that they use do help kids learn
Yeah.
in a different way. And they do kind of behind the scenes kind of label the kids in different ways to kind of suit their learning abilities, whether they label them as like learning difficulties or gifted children, it's still like a different terminology of like an energetic kid or not an energetic kid, or like you can label it in many different ways. But I think that kind of thing benefits the kids because it means that they can be pushed in the right way, and it's a consistent growth in their learning.
I think with primary schools, definitely it's different because of the fact that the teacher is with the same class constantly throughout the entire year. But at secondary, because they're shifting around a lot, they have multiple teachers for multiple subjects. In a day, they're seeing up to 5 different teachers. And I remember, because I taught at secondary level, you don't get to know the kids to actually be able to know them well enough to know how to target them, because there's just so many kids. I used to have 300 kids in a week. You just can't understand or know or even know their names by the end of the year. It's tough. I think primary schools, definitely there's probably new techniques that are being implemented. So you went through secondary school and you started to compete for Ireland. How was that, and how far did you get?
And it was cool. It was like I said, because gymnastics wasn't a big sport. It was like this completely different world that I lived. Like I would have my normal life from my local village town, and then I would go off sometimes on the weekends or on holidays, and I would maybe go to a different country and compete with the best in our country against the best of other countries. And it was really cool. It was an amazing experience. I wouldn't have said that I was super successful. I think most gymnasts would probably say that they're not super successful. maybe it's a thing about athletes. You always want to be better than what you were. But I always would have been one of the ones that kind of competed well, but never ones that won at the top. Like I said before, because Ireland was never, gymnastics wasn't huge when I was growing up. We didn't have the like facilities that the rest of the world had, or like we didn't have the coaches, we didn't have the facilities. So it was very difficult to compete. Although we tried, we got involved a lot. You know, we wouldn't always be the bottom of the table, so we would always come somewhere in the middle of these like bigger competitions. And I had some elements of success. Like I think some of my sort of achievements that I would say was probably competing in some of these bigger competitions. And so like before I finished, I did like the European Championships. I managed to do a World Cup. I always wanted to do like a world event before I finished. So I could be like, yeah, I competed with all the guys from like anywhere in the world, whether it's China, America, Russia. And it was really cool when I did, because it was in 2012, and it was the last World Cup before the London Olympics. So like all the top guys were there, like finalizing their routines and making sure that they were like on point to go and compete well. And I remember there was two famous gymnasts at the time from the Netherlands who were like going through some kind of like battle to see who would actually get the one place that the Netherlands had, so that they had been given like a structure that they had to do basically, whereas whoever did the best in three competitions got to go. And then the guy, they were at this competition, and the guy, one of the guys was like a high bar specialist, and he like competed right next to me, and it was amazing. Like I think I landed off parallel bars and he landed off high bar, and he went and won like gold medal at that Olympics. So it was such a cool experience.
Is it a very much so visualize? I'm trying to visualize what it looks like when you're competing, right? So is it a very isolated thing where you're doing it on your own, or are you working in collaboration with multiple people and standing on their heads and doing all the crazy stuff, or is it just one person competing?
No, so the gymnastics that I did, so you're thinking more, there's different like sections of gymnastics. So like the ones where you've got different multiple people is like gymnastics acrobatics, or we call acro, where you'll have twos and threes and fours. Don't quote me on that. I don't know how it all works. But mine is artistic gymnastics. So it's just me, myself, and I'll do one routine on one piece of apparatus, like one piece of equipment at a time.
So you talked about it being artistic. So does it look amazing in terms of?
I think that's the aim. The name has always been like, our gymnastics like is men's artistic and women's artistic. If you look at women's artistic, I think it's a lot more artistic because they have elements of dance and choreography in their floor routines and their beam routines. Men try to have like a little bit of artistry in some of their routines. Like they try to be able to do the moves, but then make them look like, the more elegant you look when you're doing it, the easier it looks. And it's something that when you watch it, it looks appealing to the eye. But it's difficult to add that extra bit of elegance sometimes. There's a big difference between being able to do all the things and then making it look like beautiful. That's what kind of separates the top from the bottom sometimes.
So I guess that this makes you like super, super flexible. So if you were ever like stuck in a small room and you had like a small space to get out, you could probably like be flexible enough to get out, right?
Maybe, yeah. Flexible and strong enough in the right like ranges. Like, so I could still pull myself up. Although I'm not a gymnast anymore and I'm not nearly as fit as I once was, I would still have, your body always remembers how to use those muscles, even if it's just for a short period of time. So yeah, that kind of flexibility and that kind of strength, like it stays with you forever.
So in terms of, because I'm thinking gymnastics sounds a lot like yoga, but without the major movement. Yoga's more kind of a lower level gymnast. You're probably going to be like, no, it's not. It's completely different.
No, well, they do have like, to be honest, gymnastics has a lot of similarities to like a lot of sports. Like people would say it's the base of a lot of sports, and there are some elements of yoga that are like some elements of gymnastics that are similar to yoga. It would be more like the stretching and the preparation for doing gymnastics, which would be more similar to yoga.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be so much the actual performance
Yeah.
elements. That wouldn't be
So do
that
you
similar to
practice yoga as well then?
Sometimes, yeah, but that's more because since I've sort of done gymnastics my entire life, I kind of been trying other things to sort of stay fit and look after my mind as well, because I think it's important to keep your body physically challenged and your mind physically challenged as well. And I think yoga is a kind of a good balance between both of those. So I do yoga sometimes.
So what happened? Because you were talking about how you took part in the World Gymnastics Challenge and competition. So how come you stopped? What stopped you from continuing?
So basically, it wasn't so much what stopped me then. So basically, I did that competition, the World Cup in Slovenia in 2012. But before that, in the summer of 2010, I had a really bad accident. I broke my neck.
Oh no.
And that kind of put me out of gymnastics for like the bones of a year. Like I tried to come back here and there, but it was very difficult and it was very worrying for like all the parties involved. It was very like, right, let's take our time with this process.
Was that a
Um,
gymnastics accident?
yes, yeah. Because the thing is, when you compete, when you're doing things at the highest level, because you're trying, I was trying to compete with the best of the best. So some of the things you do when you get to that level do carry very high risks, and it can be just like a fractional change in what you're doing and you can get injured. And yeah, so basically just got a little bit unlucky, got a bad injury. But to be honest, it was a bad injury, but I did well out of it. I didn't have any like bad things happen to me afterwards. I can still use all of my body. I was very lucky. It's basically just like breaking an arm or leg. It just happened to be in my neck, so it sounds a bit horrible. And I had to have surgery to sort of correct, because basically it kind of went out of place, so it had to be corrected. But sort of once when I recovered from all that, it was kind of back to normal. I just had to get back to fitness and just take my time until I was strong enough. And I think there was a point with sort of getting back from that, which made me think, wow, this is weird. Not like, I think when you're a gymnast, like even it doesn't matter what level of a gymnast you are, whether you're just starting or you're just doing it recreationally or you're doing it all the way to the top, you have this kind of like sense of confidence from it. And this we talk about this all the time in my company now, which is like the confidence you get from gymnastics. And I felt like it kind of comes from the ability to go upside down very easily without any fear, going upside down, turning, spinning around with ease. And I think at that period of time when I was recovering, I felt like that was kind of going away. And it was really weird. Like even doing the most basic things. I remember the first time I did like a rollover, like what people will call a roly-poly. And I was dizzy and I was like a bit like, oh, I was really worried. So I was almost determined just to get back at it, just so I could get that sense of confidence back where like, yes, I can do anything. And it does kind of transfer to everything in the world, whether it's your work, like out of your sport. Like if you've got that sense of confidence, it's amazing how it like relates to everything else. When you're not scared to jump into something quite literally, you know.
But that's amazing that you managed to have that accident in 2010 and you turned it around in 2 years and managed to compete on a worldwide level. Like how long were
Yeah.
you in a cast? How long did that process of
So
recovery take?
I was in like a neck brace for like a week to 10 days. So I basically spent the first
It
week
wasn't too
mostly
long.
lying. No, not a long time. Well, it was mostly lying down, but that was because I had to have surgery. So I had like some options when I did it. Whereas I could have been in like one of these big, you might have seen them on TV before. It's called a halo brace, where they drill it into your skull. You wear this huge thing to try and naturally correct your bones, and you have to wear this for 6 weeks.
They drill
And you
that
might
into your
get,
neck.
yeah, no, they drill it into your skull. So you have to keep your skull wounds clean. Like it sounded horrible. I sounded like I was going to be Frankenstein. It was like you can have this for 6 weeks, and it might fix you, and then you might have to have surgery, or we can just skip that part and go straight to surgery. But obviously, surgery is always a risk. So I thought, surgery, please, let's go. And then as soon as they had the surgery, because what they did was they opened me up here, so you might be able to see I've got like Still got a bit of a scar. My throat looks like I was attacked by a pirate. Uh, so basically what they do was they cut you here, they separate your throat, and
Oh, you're going to get into the gory details now. Oh,
they
no.
adjust it. They had to take some bone from my hip and put it in there to basically fuse two of my vertebrae.
So you had 2 surgeries, so one on your hip to remove some bone.
Yeah, two cuts. But yeah, basically as soon as that was over, like when I woke up, it was like no neck brace on, you're good to go, like you're fixed. It's just like you have to be careful. Like I had to wear a neck brace when I was out in public, just kind of because it's like a warning sign for people to stay away from me, like not bump into me or anything because I was delicate. But at home and inside, no neck brace or anything. It was pretty quick. It was very weird.
So what was the doctor's advice in terms of how long to leave it before you could go back into training? Because you're saying it was so delicate and it sounds like it was horrendous, but so you didn't leave. It doesn't sound like you left very much time.
No, well, no, because it takes bone heals. Well, I could get this wrong now, but I think bone either heals in 2 weeks or 6 weeks. Like bone heals almost completely in that amount of time. So bone heals very quickly, and then it's just about building the muscles. And if you think I took almost a year, which is quite a long time. But to be honest, the doctors did tell me to probably never do gymnastics again. Kind of a risky decision to kind of go back. But it was more for me. It was more of a mental thing.
When you say bone heals, that's for a normal person that isn't pushing their bones to their maximum. Where you're putting a lot of strain on your neck by the gymnastics that you do. So even though you're saying it took a year, that's still pretty impressive that you were able.
It's a bit of both as well, though, because when it's both your bones and your muscles. Because if you think when you're training and doing sport at this top level, your muscles are far superior to everyone else's because you're training so much. It's not just gymnastics, it's all the athletes that are doing it at the top of their field. Their muscles and their bodies are at a different level to most people. And even now, if I look at an athlete, my body and my muscle form is nothing compared to what people have because they work so hard to maintain it. And I think that works with your bones at the same time. I think one of the main reasons why my injury wasn't worse was because my muscles in my neck and my shoulders and my upper body were so strong at the time. Like that kind of saved me a little bit. So once you kind of get back to fitness, that kind of helps. If you think you've got a bone, it's back to normal, but then it's kind of cased around like good strong muscles. So the small muscles that are around your neck,
But it's amazing that you competed on a world level after an accident where doctors did.
I think it became like a thing in my head. I was like, it came up as like a possibility because it was a very weird time because in that year off, like I started working, I started my first full-time job, because I had been living like what people would call a professional athlete, even though I was an amateur athlete. So I was training full-time up until I was 20. And from not a long time, but 18 to 20. And all those years of becoming an adult, not really, only really working part-time, just enough to get by. And then all this happens and you're like, right, what else am I going to do with my time? I was living here in England away from my family. So I still had to pay rent. So I had to I figured out I'd just get a job. And then I think when you start working, you start to rely on that kind of income. And then coming back to sport, when I came back to gymnastics, I tried to work and still train at the same time. When I went to that World Cup, I was working full time, plus a little bit more. That's when I sort of started coaching full time and training. But I was only training 5 or 10 hours a week, which is nothing for the athletes that compete at that level. It was to the point where when we went to this competition, I went with a few other guys that were competing for Ireland as well at the same time. We all went, we had our competition day, it was great. They had another competition in another country, I think in 10 days time. So we had to keep training for a few days, and then I would go home and they would go to the next competition. And we did 1 day's training and I was wrecked because I wasn't used to their type of intense 5 days a week training. And when it came to day 2, I was like, sorry guys, can't do it. I was like, I'm done. This is very hard.
So what were your what happened after the World Cup? So you wanted to achieve that goal. You took part, you participated. So what happened after that?
To be honest, I think I kind of made my decision at that competition that I was like, right, that's it. I'm done. I think it was part of that realization of seeing like I was training with them and I loved it, but then waking up and being so tired and like just not being there, like not being able to put my mindset and all my time into doing that. I just thought, no, this will do. Like the hard part with gymnastics, what I find, what I still find goes on today, is that there's a lot of unrealistic goals set by coaches and their gymnasts. And sometimes we're never happy
Mm,
until we get the very top. And in reality, not a lot of people get to the very top. So
mm.
I think in a split instant, I just decided, do you know what? That's it. That's perfect. I've done like something really cool. Like I'm gonna remember this forever, and I'll be happy with that. And now I can just get on with it and focus on like working and becoming a coach.
Were you a coach before that, or was that a decision that you made after the World Cup?
No, so I was like always a coach. Like growing up as like a teenager, like even I think before I was a teenager, my very first coach, he ran a very similar business to what I run now back in Ireland, and like a recreational gymnastics club. And he used to take me and another boy out of school sometimes to go and do like a display or help out with another school that he was teaching in. So we would kind of take lead of a session sometimes. We were only like 11, 12, like we were very young. And then all the way sort of throughout my career, I was able to kind of pay my way by doing a little bit of part-time coaching. So I was always doing it. I was always very comfortable to take a very lead role, to like take a whole class or something like that. It never really worried me. I think because my first coach, he would always put us in difficult situations to try and teach us, to give us that confidence.
So where are you now in terms of your business? Like how many kids do you coach? Where are you located? So before coronavirus hit, where were you in terms of your business? How many people are you working with?
So we're in Southwest London, and we probably teach around 1,000 kids a week,
Wow.
maybe a little bit more. Yeah, which is great. It's fantastic. Basically, we've got kind of two sides to the business. We've got people that come to us, whether it's through our satellite gymnastics clubs or our after school or before school programs, and we organize all of that and we teach them and we organize their program, which we've got roughly 700 kids involved in. Or there's the other side where schools will hire us as coaches and we'll go in and run their programs or their clubs. So they kind of organize a lot of it, but we'll just go in as the coach, as like the specialist coach, because
Mm,
we can do so much more than them because it's our specialty.
mm.
Um, so in all, we probably teach. It depends on the time of the year, but generally around 1,000, to maybe a little bit more to like 1,200, because we teach a lot. Because we can teach a whole school in some terms.
So that's a lot of kids. That's like 5,000 kids a month. Which
Yeah,
is
well, if you
amazing.
think of it that way, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
How long has it taken you to grow your business then? Like when did you
Um, so the business is only 5 years old, so not a long time. We kind of a Good Life Gymnastics grew very fast, which was great. You know, it was really good how it went. Like we've just been very lucky. I think the way everybody has worked together and the team that we've built up around us have all been fantastic. And like we've just been so lucky to have such good people, and everybody kind of was like keen to drive forwards. And my sort of goal from early on was to try and create this really good thing that we can give people, because I've always loved gymnastics and I always kind of favored teaching the recreational side of it, because I think it has the highest benefits for people. Because when you change from from like almost nothing to a little bit, like the joy it brings you and the happiness it brings you on a regular basis, it's incredible. When it gets later on, like to the higher end of like elite gymnastics, it's almost like a drug, you know. You don't really get any enjoyment until like you achieve like a new thing, which could be every few weeks.
So when you call it recreational gymnastics, so you mean gymnastics just to get fit as a hobby, as a side thing, rather than for competition, for competing?
Yes. Yeah. So obviously we all know that we need to do sport, or we need to do some kind of physical exercise on a regular basis, because it keeps our body mobile, it keeps us happy, it's very good for our mental well-being. And gymnastics, I would say gymnastics is one of the most important ones, because it covers such a wide range of things. Like, it covers spatial awareness, it covers mobility, it covers strength, it covers flexibility. It gives kids so much confidence. It's got so many benefits that you get from like all the other sports. And you get to, and it's kind of this cool activity that has all those things, and you get to learn this sort of fundamentals of this incredible sport that can go on to such an elite stage. So I sort of love that side of it, and it's great because we can, by doing and kind of by specializing on this side of it, and only this side of it, we can kind of get better at it, better and better, and bring it to more people. Because that's always been the aim, to sort of to give my experiences, which I've had some incredible experiences with gymnastics, sort of help other people have that too.
Do you work with just primary age kids, or does it go all the way up to secondary as well?
Yeah, we go all the way up to secondary school. We have less secondary and teenagers, but we do work with them. We find that sometimes kids will stay with us doing gymnastics and then start in some of our coaching programs, and then they become our coaches. We've got a few.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we've got a few early, like, young teenagers now, that young to middle teenagers now, that have done gymnastics with us and now come through to be our coaches. And they're fantastic because they know they've got the same values as us. They understand how we run as a company, and they really enjoy being there. Like, they love doing gymnastics on a weekly basis because they can still do it while they're coaching. And now they get to learn an incredible skill, which is like teaching. Like, they get to do a job where it involves teaching, working hard, being active.
And I guess that must be very satisfying for you as well, to be able to give your knowledge to the next generation, and then hopefully inspire them to become the gymnast that you were once, and be able to compete on that level, because you started coaching quite young as well. So I guess you're giving that back as well to multiple kids, and hopefully.
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the biggest goals for me at the start was, you'll probably get this from the name of my company, was because basically when I had started this, I had a really good idea how to teach gymnastics and how to teach it really well. And I only knew that I knew that if I built a team and we dedicated more time, that would only get better. So the quality of gymnastics for me was always kind of a given. What I didn't really know how to do, and what I didn't really see a lot of people doing at the time, was creating a job in gymnastics that people would enjoy and have a good life, because I worked in a few gymnastics jobs and I didn't think they were great for different reasons. And I wanted to create an environment where people could do that at any level, whether it's a young person going through secondary school and going into sixth form and going to university, and they can have a really enjoyable job to have at that point. Or for the other side of it, where gymnasts come out of being a high level gymnast and they have a place to come and work, and like a great place to come work in their field, where their specialty can be used, So I wanted to really find a way to do that. And like I said, by calling my company Good Life Gymnastics was like a big part of.
I love that name, but it also reminds me, I don't know whether I'm thinking of this correctly, that there was an old series, a drama that was called Good Life. Was it? I thought
The Good Life, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
I thought
movie.
maybe you had based it around that because you were a huge fan.
No. I think, to be honest, at the time, I just come out of a job that I just really didn't enjoy, and I was like, I want to do the
I want to have a good life.
I want to have a good life, And I noticed that people want to have a good life, and I've always just wanted to use that as the basis of how we grow our company. And it seems
I guess you're constantly looking at that name, so you're constantly drawn back to the reason
100%,
that you started it.
100%.
So you see it on your logo, you see it on your email, and you're drawn back to the reason why
to be honest, it helps us make a lot of business decisions, because when we're doing things and we come across a challenge, like as any business will, or any company or any club does, like we kind of think of that when we're making a decision, because we know it's going to affect people whenever we make a decision, and we're really aware that it does affect people. So we always try to think of how we can make it, how can the people can have the best life for everyone, for us, for like the people involved in any major decision. And it seems it's been very positive from like in our experience so far.
So we've spent like 40 minutes talking about your life. So let's move on to the next bit, which is what you're doing now during the coronavirus stage, because obviously you can't be out there teaching kids. So how have you got around that, and how are you supporting families in the home now, and what could they be doing at home to be active?
Yeah, so we closed on the 17th of March. We decided just to go for it and close before kind of they announced schools to close, because, well, they announced that pregnant people are not allowed to be outside. My wife is pregnant, so I didn't want to be out with everybody else. So I kind of thought of my situation. I thought of everybody else, and I thought I didn't want to put people at risk. So we just decided to close for both our coaches and our members. And kind of before that, in the weeks building up to, we had started to put some plans together. I was one of the conspiracy people at the start, thinking, "Oh, things could go wrong," while everyone was thinking, "No, we'll be fine." So we were starting to prepare, and I always said, if it does come to this, we'll just go online. We'll figure out a way to teach classes online. Obviously, I was lying to myself at that point. I was just completely talking like for fun. But once it happened, we kind of figured, right, let's do it. Let's give it a go. We put a deadline in place. We said, and the deadline was, we'll have our first online class online tomorrow. And then in that time, we figured out how to get a class online. Basically, that's what our efforts were to do, was to try and continue a way to keep people active, because we know how important it is to stay active on a regular basis. Almost more important now, because we're spending more time at home. Like, we are a lot less active in terms of not just exercising, but we're not walking around as much, because we don't have to go any places. We're like, some days, I'm sure some people are the same as me, we don't even leave the house. Like, so it's not a lot of steps even. So we thought we have to continue a way for people to be active and access like our services. So we spent like the first month kind of like practicing how to get like teaching classes online. We did some things on YouTube, and we started like some private Facebook groups. And now we've got it sort of, or a little bit organized into sort of three different steps, three different things that people can do. Now we've got weekly Zoom classes, which are nice and intimate, where we can have that interaction with children, where we can teach them like safe gymnastics, obviously not the things that they can do in the gym, but the same elements of fun and activity that is all based around gymnastics. And we're also doing weekly live Facebook classes, which is a little bit interactive, obviously not as much as the Zoom, but then the great thing about the Facebook classes, people can catch up with them. So if they can't like maybe join in on that session for that day, they can catch up later in that week, which has been great. And then we're just trying to continue to do YouTube sessions at the same time, because we want to 100% train, give people something if they maybe can't afford to do sessions right now, because we know a lot of people are impacted like financially. And we want to try and use this to practice and to build our brand at the same time, because like it's very important for us as a company to show that we are trying our best to keep going as a company. We want to come back to normality eventually. We want to be able to come back to employ all of our coaches again as normal. Want to be able to give that great service we've done before, if not to more people. And we're just really pushing and trying to figure out a way to explore this sort of new concept of life at the moment. And it's something you can't be, my experience, you can't be scared to give it a go. Like it's much better to try some of these things than just sit back and wait for it to be over, because
so
you just
Geoff,
don't know. Sorry?
I was going to say, so Geoff has tried interpreting one of my science sessions into a gymnastic routine, and that's going to be go live on Friday. Is the video going on Friday?
Tomorrow.
Today's Thursday. Wow, the week's gone really quickly. So Geoff kind of liked the Big Bang session that I did. And he's taken the science, he's learnt the science, and he's interpreted it into an amazing gymnastic routine. So I've seen a snippet of it and it looks amazing. So if you guys want to get hold of that and you want to watch that and try it out at home, it's a bit like my Kung Fu science, but at another level, because I could not do any of those moves.
No, you'll be well able to do this.
I'm so glad you didn't get me to do it as well. So how can people access that video and your other videos that you've been doing on YouTube?
So they can just head over. The best thing to do is to subscribe to our YouTube channel again. Maybe what I'll do is I'll comment. I think we can comment on this.
Yes.
Or I'll ask you to put a link in the description, maybe, if you can. But just to head over to our YouTube channel. To be honest, the best point of call for anything we're doing is to start with our YouTube channel, Good Life Gymnastics. It's very simple. Like if you search for us, we'll be the first ones there, Good Life Gymnastics. But 100% just subscribe, because number one, then you'll know when we're releasing, whether it's either sessions or fun activities. And then we kind of talk about some of the other things we're doing at the same time while we're there. And what I think, like, I know we talked about this a little bit, this whole thing of like, hey, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It actually, I think people forget about it because it's such a simple action to do. But it's simple for people, but it's actually very beneficial for us because it kind of shows us that people are enjoying what we're doing. And eventually, if people keep doing it, we can actually earn income from our YouTube, which is very beneficial because it just means that the things that we're doing there can get better and we can continue to do things like that. And our companies can be stronger and do better things.
We can offer more than that way as well.
Offer way more, yeah, 100%.
But I think that the important thing to do is, which I didn't realize this at the beginning because someone told me, because people were saying that they weren't getting notifications when I was posting things up. So when you go on the subscribe button, there's two different types of subscriptions. When you click on the bell, you've got an all or personalized. You need to pick all, which means that every time a video goes live, or every time a video gets uploaded, you will get a notification. Because I had lots of people saying, I'm not getting notified when you're going live. I'm not getting a notification. And I couldn't figure out why they weren't until someone commented on my Facebook and said, this is what you need to be doing. So
and the best thing is free.
It is.
You know, I was speaking when I first told my parents about what I'm doing, they're like, how much is this going to cost for us to subscribe to your YouTube channel? And I suppose it makes sense if you've never used that kind of thing before, then, you know, generally subscribe means, oh, is this a paid service that I'm going to be doing? So I think sometimes it's good to remind people that maybe haven't spent a lot of time using YouTube or anything like that, or have maybe watch it, but have never done anything like liking a video or subscribing. Like, to be honest, before I started doing this, I probably wouldn't have liked very many videos, or I wouldn't have subscribed to any YouTube channels. I would just let it like send me stuff and I would watch it and enjoy it. But it makes so much sense that the stuff that I enjoy to watch or gives me value, I can give back to them, to those people, by liking and subscribing, because it means that they grow and they can do better things.
It's like giving someone a smile or complimenting them.
Exactly like giving you a smile.
Because we don't.
Every time I get a subscriber, I smile. I just stop what I'm doing if I'm having breakfast and I.
What are the 3 things that you can advise parents to be doing at home with their kids just to stay active during this period? Well, one of it is to subscribe to your channel. What are 2 other things that they could be doing?
To be honest, one of the videos that we're doing next week is about warm-ups. So I would say the next thing, or probably one of the most important things, if you're doing any session or any full session or any kind of activity, warm-ups, like pulse raising activities, are so important. Because number one, if you're going to do some kind of specific activity after, whether it's like football or gymnastics or something specific like that, our body performs so much better when all of our muscles are warm and they're ready to do things. But then at the same time, even if you just want to do something active, doing a warm-up or a pulse raiser gets you a little bit out of breath. It's generally a little bit of fun, and it's a cardiovascular exercise generally. So that kind of thing is really beneficial to do. So I would almost put that number one. Number one, do a warm-up. Number two, subscribe. And number three, I would say some stretches. It's funny because there's sort of the main content of some of our sessions is the bit after that. So like, if you could say the best four things to do,
What's
the best four things to do.
But Geoff, what's the difference between warm-up and stretching? Isn't it the same thing?
No. So the difference between a warm-up and a stretch. So we would say a warm-up is kind of split up into two things, like a pulse raiser and a stretch. So you've got to do the thing to make you warm, which, you know, the easiest thing to think of that in your head is like running or jumping jacks, things that will get your body moving fast and get your blood flowing. And then stretching is when you are a little bit slower and actually trying to slightly lengthen and prepare some of your muscles, like for exercise. So it's stretching like this. It's a slower. That's the part that's a little bit similar to yoga. And those combined really get you ready for exercise. Okay.
I didn't really think about the two stage. I thought of the same thing. I was like, it's the same.
Yeah, so thing, right? To be honest, a lot of people do. Like a lot of people will say, "We'll go warm up," and generally, if you're a football club, it's like run around a little bit and then reach for one foot, reach for the other foot. You're like, "Oh, I'm done, I'm good to go." Whereas, like, you may not be, and stretching more of your body can make you more limber, more mobile. So we would always do some kind of fun pulse raiser because I think it's good to enjoy that part, because it gets you like ready in your body and it gets ready in your mind because you're happy. And then you do a full body stretch. So all of your muscles are ready, because in gymnastics, you use so many different muscles in everything you're doing.
Brilliant. That sounds really good. And then you were saying there's a fourth one. What's the fourth bit? That's the actual content. Well,
the fourth bit. So I'd say do a pulse raiser, do a stretch. And then, yeah, the third part is do some like specific content, whether it's doing like gymnastics, some elements of gymnastics, or even doing another activity. And yeah, the fourth one is subscribe.
If there's any adults watching that want to get involved, okay, so I remember when I was younger, I used to be able to do forward rolls, I used to do backward rolls, I could do all of this stuff. I haven't done any of that stuff in probably a good while, right? So if there's any adults watching that want to do that, like where would you start? Because you're talking about that confidence and that fear when after you'd had your accident. I think a lot of adults feel that. So I would be scared of actually doing that now, because I'm going to hurt myself. Well, as a kid, you don't care.
To be honest, now is the time. If any like parents or adults would want to get involved in that kind of thing, now is the time, because all this, the safest thing to work on home are like the fundamentals of gymnastics. So we're not going to be doing things like somersaults and flips, and we're even limited to things like cartwheels and handstands and stuff like that. So a lot of it is the stuff that builds up towards that. So even joining in on the sessions that we do for kids can be done by adults. We have to remember that adults are just slightly bigger kids, you know, if not like a little bit more delicate. So they should probably start with the younger age group stuff.
It's true. It
makes sense. But to be honest, like even doing sessions like ours, it doesn't matter what level of ability you're at. Like they're kind of tailored for all abilities in fitness or in gymnastics, because when I perform some of the things, I'll perform it to the quality that you need to try and get to. But then it doesn't always have to look like that. Even if you can try and attempt it and get it close to that, you always have something to work towards. So if you're an adult and you want to try it, then you can kind of do some of it. Or say if you can do 3 of the exercises and not 4, that's great, you know, because you'll eventually be able to get all of them. But it's the fact of joining in, participating, and giving it a go. And that's the bit where, like, once you start to try, that's where the confidence starts to grow.
I think it's because I work with kids as well, and it's so much easier to get kids to try the younger they are, the easier it is to get them to try 100%. Something new. And the older we get, the more reluctant we are at attempting something new. So like it's been at the back of my head that I haven't done a forward roll in years, in probably 2 decades, right? And I kind of go, I'd love to be able to do that again, but it's gonna hurt. if I get it wrong, I'm gonna like strain my neck, or I'll do something and I'm gonna land.
You'd be surprised.
But
if you start to work on things like that, like even before you do it, you start to do things where you're moving your body in different ways, especially doing like a gymnastics warm-up or a stretch, because you're moving different muscles that you generally wouldn't do on a normal day-to-day or even normal exercises. And then it does give you a little bit more confidence to try something like that. And I would always advise, if you're doing any sort of gymnastic skills, like a roll or a cartwheel or anything like that, you've got to be very careful, because you've got to have the right space at home, so you don't have anything dangerous around you. You've got to like be doing it with someone else, because you can hurt yourself. So it's just best to be safe. But then all these things that we're working on are all kind of developmental exercises, so that when we eventually come back to like gyms full of equipment and multiple coaches around, things like this come back really quickly and you get them really easily. So yeah, it's worth trying some of the stuff, giving it a go,
Well, if you don't hear from me for a while, it's because I sprained a neck trying to do a somersault.
I'm hoping that you'll join it. I'm hoping that you'll actually do the session that we post tomorrow. I know you've seen some of it, but I think you should give it a go. I think your followers would love it.
As long as I'm not being video recorded, I can have an attempt in the background trying to do it.
No, you've got to try it and then record it. Come on, you're a YouTuber now, so you need to like show the funny bits and show the exciting bits.
I'm not an exercise person though. I didn't do exercise before the lockdown, and now I'm in complete lockdown. Like I haven't left the house, so my levels of fitness are not exactly great.
Nah, you gotta, like you said, you've got to act like a kid. You've got to just try stuff. Give it a go. Start from the start. Not
on camera though. Right, so we are in the last half an hour, well, last 25 minutes of today's show. So if you just tuned in, it's Home Ed Me podcast with Geoff. Geoff is a gymnast. I want to say gymnastic. I can't even say it now because it's upside down on my screen. For some reason, but I want to say gymnastics. It feels like you should be adding something at the end of it. Like you have optometrist.
Yeah, I would probably say gymnastics specialist.
Yeah, that sounds better. Gymnastics specialist. I like.
Because I'm technically not a gymnast now.
You're not.
So it's kind of like the mix between someone that's very experienced with gymnastics and kind of like, I do business stuff as well. I have to do boring business stuff.
Which I think you're really good at, because you're really good at figuring out what you need to do and then working with it. So you're really good at that.
Thank you. I'm learning.
So I think that's the important bit.
Always learning.
Learn.
Always learning.
Right. So this leads us nicely into the next bit. Where we're going to do the challenge. So at the end of every podcast, we have a challenge where the guest will answer some questions. There's no right or wrong answer. They're more open-ended questions. But we've got 5 topics to choose from. Now, if you pick the arts or the engineering one, you might need to have paper, scissors, felt tip pen to hand. But you don't have to pick one of those. So we've got science, we've got technology, engineering, arts, or maths.
Wait, say that again.
Science, tech, engineering, arts, maths, STEAM.
What have you not done with someone yet?
I think everyone's picked science and tech. Oh, someone picked art.
And what was the other one?
Engineering and maths.
If you could choose one of those, which one would it be? Which is a better question? Yeah.
Well, I'm a mathematician, right? So I would naturally choose maths.
All right, let's give it a go. Let's go for maths.
You're going to go for maths?
Yeah, why not?
Right, so this is a question. I'm going to pick a question out. Right, so the question says... Oh, this is actually quite difficult. I think I've done this before with someone months ago, and it took us forever to figure out how to do this. I don't even think I've written the answer. anywhere, so I don't even know what the answer is. What is the maximum number of pieces that an apple can be divided into with 4 straight, planar cuts? The pieces do not move. So basically, you've got an apple. You've only got 4 cuts that you can make. You can't move the pieces about. What's the maximum number of pieces you can get? And I think the answer is something like 13, but like, how would you do that? And the last time I asked this question was about 7 months ago to someone, and he spent like a week trying to figure it out and then got back to me and demonstrated with an apple.
That's exciting. I'm going to say the answer is 13 because you just told me.
How would you do it?
An apple to make 30 with 4 cuts.
4 cuts.
Oh, that's easy. You just. No, I'm not kidding. That's not easy at all.
It's not.
Trying to think, do I have an apple? Give it a go.
If you have an apple, you're just going to ruin it trying to do your 4 cuts.
So obviously you're gonna have to. Oh, I could be wrong. Maybe it's not cut down the middle. Maybe cut down the middle first. You know,
okay,
it's always a cut down the middle. And then. Wow.
You can't move the pieces, so they're still together. So it's
okay. So they're still together, all right? So I suppose, well, the first thought would be cut this way, cut that way, cut through the middle. So that gives you 8.
That's 4.
So if you went here, here, and then through the middle like this. So this goes to 2 pieces, to 4 pieces, then to 8 pieces. Yeah. So that would be my first thought.
Okay, and then what's your last cut?
Oh, so yeah, one more cut. Yeah, that's easy, no? Well, then that gets you to like 16, no? Oh no, it's probably
because you can't go through all of
can't
them.
cut all the pieces. Oh, I don't know. Just a random slice and hope for 13.
I think.
Well, basically, I would need to cut to get from 8 to 13. I suppose it doesn't really work because if I cut, it's got to be more than 13, right? Because if I cut at least, if I sliced, so if I went like this, slice this way, slice this way, slice. When I go to slice through the middle, instead of slicing through the middle, if I lift it up a little bit, and then
you can't lift it up in the apple.
No, lift the knife. So like, here's my cup. So if I slice down this way, which goes in half, and then down this way, so it puts in 4 quarters. And then if I was to cut like this, but not through the middle, kind of like shaving the top off, it still makes 8. Yeah.
Okay.
And then doing another time down a little bit lower across that way. So that makes 12.
4, 8, 12. Yes, 12.
So don't know how you get 13.
You're going to have a lot of apples that you're going to be slicing up to have a go now.
Is it something to do with like the roundy bit at the top?
No, it's to do with how you do your first cut, from what I recall. So your first cut isn't through the center, I don't think. It's a really interesting one. If you ever had to divide an apple into 13 pieces.
Yeah, I'm really curious how you get an odd number. Because it seems so symmetrical with your cuts, but obviously.
Then that means that your cuts have to be not symmetrical for.
Yeah, makes sense.
Do you want another maths question?
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
You're on a roll.
Yeah.
You managed 12. I think you managed
12, one away.
I don't know what the answer to this is. We can try and figure this out together. The number of hours left today is half the number of hours already passed. What time is it?
Okay, right. Say that again. So
the number of hours left today is half the number of hours already passed. What time is it?
So it is.
So we've got 2/3 of the day has already gone, right?
4 p.m.
How have you worked that out so quickly?
Because you divide 24 by 3, and then you've got
Are you sure you're not a
Please.
mathematician? Because you work faster than I do.
Maybe that's what's helping me in gymnastics. Helps me land on my feet.
Maybe you need to do like gymnastic maths or something.
That's it. My next session. If you want gymnastics maths, comment somewhere on this and tell me, and I'll make that for Sid.
It's right. You've done it really. Yeah, it's 24 divided by 3, which gives you 8. And then 2/3 of the day have gone because the number of hours left today is half the number of hours already.
So 2 8s is 16, which is 4 o'clock.
You
Hey.
worked that out really quickly. Like I wasn't even able.
Easy. Come on, give me some hard ones, Sid.
Oh, this is the last maths. I need more questions, guys. You need to send me some questions in. Right, maths again. If you write all the numbers from 0 to 109, which digit will you write most often?
Oh, wow. 1.
I had the answer written for this one at the back. And you're
Is that
right.
right?
You're right.
Yes.
How did you work that out so quickly? How are you not a mathematician?
Well, I thought maybe it's 9 because obviously you'll say 9 11 times, but then once you get past 100, you have to use 1 every time. So
Because
yeah.
it's 11, you've got 1, 11, and then
Because if you say any number, you're only going to use it 10 or you're going to use it 11 times, right? Because you're going to say
what
it's
about
like 7.
0? What about 0 though? 0 you're using multiple times.
Yeah, that's true, but not as much.
How do you know? Because
Not
in
as much as
every
1.
10 digits you're getting a 0 in there.
Yes, it's just.
Oh, but you don't have 0, 1, 0, 2. You have 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, you've got 11, but you've got 101, 102, 103. So you've got zeros there, but then.
But you don't have any digits lower than 100, which have 0 at the start.
I'm guessing 0 is second, right?
Probably. But that was really quick. You're really quick at this. Okay, I'm going to give you let's give you
part of it is a guess.
Let's do a tech question.
Okay, let's do it.
Right, technology question. Oh, we had this question a few weeks ago. What is the most important technology of the future? So in your opinion, what do you think is the most important technology of the future?
Oh.
And why?
Important technology of the future, as in like technology that's not already there?
It could be either. It could be either.
Mm.
Do you think robots are going to take over?
Well, it was sliced bread, but it's probably gone past that now.
Do you think sliced bread is technology though?
Yes, that's impressive
Knife.
stuff. Like,
The knife.
you ever tried to make your own bread and have the exact same slices every single time? It's a difficult one. Right, let me think. Technology for the future.
Do you think gymnastics will ever be replaced by robots?
Could be, yeah. I think everything will be replaced by robots eventually. I suppose robots then.
You know what would be really amazing? If you were doing gymnastics virtually, but it looked like you were there with the kid. Like there was like a hologram.
Hologram, yeah.
Like a 3D.
They've done things like that, I think, at music concerts. I think they've recreated, I think I've seen, they've recreated, Michael Jackson and maybe Tupac and things like that.
As a hologram?
Yeah, as a hologram, yeah. If you look online, you'll find that. And it looks like a real person walking around the stage.
Why would you go to a concert then and you couldn't just have that in your home?
But I think it was like you're at a concert and then they're like, hey, this is my special guest. And you're like, boom, Michael Jackson. And you're like, oh, that's awesome. And because concerts are cool, it's a different experience. It's the whole excitement of going out. It's the whole theatrical production and everything.
Imagine if you could recreate that at home though, especially during lockdown phase.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think that's probably the whole growth of VR, virtual reality stuff. That's pretty cool. Or if you had a whole room of virtual reality, that'd be pretty cool as well.
Do you reckon that if people use virtual reality that they could get fit just by thinking that they're doing exercise when they're not really actually physically doing much.
I mean, like, it would be a bit better time consuming. Like, it would be helpful if you could. I would enjoy it because, like, I just turn it on when I'm sleeping, you know? Wake up and you're ready. You've got your summer bod ready. But then
You
I
still have to
suppose
put,
I'd be out of business.
you still have to put effort in though, because I assume that you would still have to think that you're doing exercise, and then your body would react to that. You'd feel the pumping of the blood and everything because you're.
Well, I suppose you've got like these things that you attach to your body and gives like electric shocks to your muscles. And like the Ronaldo thing that you see on the internet somewhere, where he's advertising how to get a six pack.
Do you feel that that's a cheat?
Is anything a cheat though, really? You know? Gotta give, if it works, it works. The thing is, it might give you muscles, but it might not make you fit. Might not be able to use them in the same way that you could benefit from them. Like, you know, doing anything manually. Your muscles are not used to, if they're just used to contracting, they might not be used to like moving in different ranges. But
it's interesting that you say that, because that just made me think of salt crystals. So there's two ways of creating salt crystals. Either you leave them on a windowsill and you let them slowly dry and you get big crystals, or you could add a heater and create the crystals really quickly, but they're going to be tiny. So the end result is you're still getting crystals, but you're getting two different types. So I guess it's with the muscle thing, where you're still getting the six pack at the end, but one's going to be over time period, and then that they might be better shaped, or you might be able to actually hold the strength with it, while the other ones are just surface level.
Yeah, I suppose it's like a lot of things, isn't it? Like sometimes quality takes longer. Quality takes time
to build up.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Is it going to be VR technology, do you reckon? Robots?
Ooh. What if you could stop time? That'd be cool.
Did you ever used to watch Bernard's Watch when you were younger?
No.
So it used to come on.
Could be an English people thing.
Oh,
we get different TV.
I forget you're Irish.
Yeah.
So basically,
we get some things that are the same, but not everything.
There was basically this kid, and he found a watch. I don't know how he found it or whether it belonged to his family. I don't quite know. But every time he pressed the pause button on the watch, all time stopped.
Oh, that's cool.
So he could pause there and then he could just sleep, or he could pause and he could like get his homework done, and then but then he realized if he did it too much, he was just completely knackered all the time, because he tried to do more things in that time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But then there were situations where if someone was going to have an accident, he'd be able to pause and move them out of the way, and just things like that. It was pretty cool.
That is very cool. That sounds like a cool superhero power.
What would you do if you could pause time, though? What would you do with that time?
Oh, what would I do?
Would it be any fun, though?
Why? Because no one else could do things?
Yeah.
I suppose it'd be good as being like a superhero, you know, you could save a lot of things from happening. If you're like, oh no, this thing is happening, you could be like, pause time and go and, you know, say it was like a natural disaster, like say a tsunami. You could pause time, go move all the people into like safety and be like, play. And then it's like, yeah.
But imagine how much you would age in that time, because I assume time would still be running for you. So you as a person would age, because that would take you years to move everyone out of harm's way.
But great power comes with great responsibilities. Isn't that what Batman or Spider-Man's uncle said? Something like that.
So you would dedicate your life to keeping people safe?
Well, I'm not saying that's what I would do. I'm sure I would do some of that. But, you know, you never know. You could like, if you're, I don't know, if you're about to go into a meeting and you're kind of tired, you could just like pause, gonna have a nap. You know, so you're not late, but you could use it, man. Use it all the time.
Or I'm always running late, so I could pause it, get there first.
That's true. It'd probably be more beneficial for you then. Like, oh, running late, haha. Not now. I'll just finish what I'm doing and then...
I'd probably never reach the meeting. I'd be like, yeah, I'm still not finished on what I'm doing. I'm just going to stay here.
No one would ever reach the meeting. Exactly.
But I think in a weird sort of way, coronavirus has sort of stopped time.
Yeah.
We can
I suppose coming back to the actual question, it's giving opportunity for like some technologies to be more important. Like I could probably say the most important technology out of all this is probably like Zoom calls. Like it's probably the thing that's become so much more important and popular in this time, where you can like still communicate with people, but in like mass scale or in different ways, whether it's like a Zoom call or a WhatsApp call or some kind of communication.
Imagine how foreign that would have sounded when we were younger. Like nothing like that existed. Did you used to watch Knight Rider?
I think I have watched it before. Isn't that a movie as well? Like,
I think it is. They've remade it, but when I was younger, when they first had the first original one out, it used to be like a drama series.
well, that's with the car, right?
Yeah, he had Kit,
Oh, yeah.
and he had video calling features in his car.
Yeah,
and we were like,
yeah.
oh wow, look at that, how amazing is that? But now that's pretty normal. But back then, that was like the new tech, the new kind of sci-fi stuff, where it was completely unheard and unknown of to have anything like that.
It's definitely stuff that you would never have thought about. Like we're currently organizing a gender reveal party for our to be born child. So like, but that's all going to be around Zoom. So we're organizing a party, like some kind of celebration that you usually have, you know, with family and friends and people. It's all going to be based around technology. And it's something that if you think about planning a party, like, or buying decorations and having food, but to have in front of a screen, like if you think about it, it's something you'd never really think about. Generally, you think, oh, I'm going to have a call. I'll just, sit and have a call. But now people are getting more creative and thinking, no, we still want to live life. We still want to do good things, which people should. And I think it's amazing that we can do this. But it's so cool to see like what people are doing with it.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice place to end on, to say, be creative, guys, and do something out of the norm and get involved with what Geoff is doing, because it's amazing. So if people want to reach out to you, is it just Good Life Gymnastics on all social
Good
media?
Life Gymnastics. You can find us anywhere. We should be the first one that comes up on everything, because I don't think there's another Good Life Gymnastics.
Good Life Gymnastics. It's such a cool
Best thing you can do. Thank you. Yeah, best thing you can do is subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, subscribe to yours, Sif. It helps us. It's good. It's so useful, and it's so beneficial for us.
And it's going to be amazing to see your video tomorrow, and I'll be sharing that across my channels.
I'm excited.
The level of science that you got involved in there was amazing. I was like, he's got everything in there. It's so cool. You could do a huge...
And I think a good one, if you can, maybe if you want, you can communicate this to some of your audience, is that, because I know when I showed you, we found 2 small mistakes that I made, and we've been able to kind of fix one of them, but the other one we haven't. So we're going to kind of play the game. Can you spot the mistake?
And let me just think, what was the other mistake? Because which one has been corrected?
You're going to have to wait and see now. I can't tell anyone. It's a surprise.
Okay.
But I'm going to so if people can spot it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write that as a comment. I'm going to write that as like a comment or a question somewhere. So if someone can spot it, comment it and see if you can catch it. It's the one that's like easier to miss, if that makes sense. So there's 2 mistakes. One is very easy to miss, but if you can catch it, it's like, it depends which way you're looking at it. That's the hint, I suppose. It's like, is the mistake is in what I say and not what you can see.
Okay, I know which one it is now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I think that'll be a great little competition to run. I'll get all my scientists ready to spot it, because they've all done the Big Bang Theory with me, so they should know. Yeah,
there you go. That's a good thing. If you can test some of your guys on it, they can catch me out. They may come up with more mistakes than I've made, because I'm not that experienced with this kind of stuff.
I reckon you should do a whole series on like Good Life Gymnastics science.
I'm ready. Give me the topics. I'll make the sessions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been
my pleasure.
Amazing 90 minutes and finding out about your life and the setback with your accident and how you've kind of come back from that, and you still managed to achieve the goal of competing worldwide. And it's amazing that you've built up your business and you're serving 1,000 kids a week.
Thank you.
And I hope it continues to go from strength to strength.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Sid. Thank you for having me. It's been super fun. It's been so nice to talk with you, and I hope both of our audience can get some benefit from this kind of thing. So thank you. I really like it.
Might be doing a lot more in the future. Who knows?
Hey.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.